It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley.
Hello.
Welcome. Now, all right, let's talk about the Department of Government Efficiency. All right. That was the talk yesterday. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, to put together the Department of Government Efficiency to go through with a fine-tooth comb. I'm making all this up here when I said that. But going through all the departments of government, looking at all the wasteful and unnecessary spending. Well, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? It sounds great. What are they going to do? Well, it is not a department of the government to begin with.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. It's not an official department.
And I'm not for creating new departments.
Yes, they're not, for example, I don't believe they're being paid at all. I don't know if there'll be any government money that will be allocated to give them the resources to investigate, to actually go through the budget, even though they will be working with to get their information with the Department of Budget and what is
Office of Management
Office of Management and Budget to get all of it, so they'll have access to it at that time. I have not seen anywhere where they're going to use government money to do any of this.
Right.
They plan on then making it transparent, showing you all the things, and actually doing things like, having a vote on, what you think, what does the public think we should get rid of? What do you believe is unnecessary? What I see it as, and they want the final report done by July 4th of 2026. So you're almost halfway through the administration when this report comes out.
Right.
Well, what is the purpose of it? Is the purpose that, because once you get to that point, for example, I was looking at, let me go back to Twitter here, for example, something that Elon Musk shared. The problem with is not that we're not taxed enough. It's that our government lights cash on fire. Here's some of the absurd garbage that your taxes pay for. $1.5 million studying the effects of yoga on goats.
Goat yoga.
Well, you do have my interest on that one.
Is it fainting goats?
Is that people doing yoga with goats near them, or goats doing yoga? Are goats doing yoga? Then I don't know about it.
Is goat yoga a thing?
$1.7 billion maintaining empty buildings. $5 million on a campaign to promote an alternative music scene to get hipsters to stop smoking.
The empty buildings thing, I just let people know a little insider information. That's where Alec Baldwin meets with Tom Cruise and all the Mission Impossible. So we can't get rid of those empty buildings.
And if any of the empty buildings are in Florida anywhere, just call Scientology. They'll take care of it.
Right.
Let me just, they're going crazy in Clearwater.
Yeah.
Because it's like they're taking over all of downtown. They're just buying all these buildings.
Right.
All right. So
between them and Jeff Bezos, they're going to own all of Florida.
So $5 million on a campaign to promote an alternative music scene to get hipsters to stop smoking. $2 million.
Can we spend money on hipsters to get them to quit being hipsters?
Well, I have a question.
What?
Are there still hipsters?
There are, and this is why we need to get to the root of the problem.
Oh, okay.
That's the government answer.
$2 million to create an internship program that resulted in the hiring of one full-time employee at the Department of Agriculture.
What's his name? James Comey? Remember James Comey standing out in a bare cornfield? I'm contemplating. Do that
God,
somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 2021 alone, the government managed to misplace $281 billion in payments. $1 million studying the effects of music on dairy cows, and $1.7 million to study the effects of alcohol on fish.
Let's go back to the music on dairy cows, because I got to know.
Yes.
All right. So, Five Finger Death Punch. That's got to be a Dairy Cow favorite. They've got to be one of the bands that the Dairy Cows are like, no, we're totally in on that.
Well, yeah, that's their kind of music.
Yeah, I got it. I got what I see.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I got that. I see what you.
That's really big.
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
So 1.7 million to study the effects of alcohol on fish. It was somebody else that posted this, and Elon Musk, just shared it and went, "Wow." Okay, so you get all these things down, and you've got, if you're going to go at that particular level, you're going to have 1 million of these particular things. I'm not kidding. You're going to have 1 million of these things listed. Okay, the public sees it. There's a report on it. Then what?
Yeah, what's actionable from it? I mean, what is the idea now of taking that and doing something?
How do you get Congress to do that?
Right.
This, I don't even know. Remember they had the pig book? Remember the pig? They called it the pork book?
The pork book.
We called it the pig book.
Yeah.
It came out every year, and it would list all the, well, nothing was ever done because you listed what was out there.
Right.
So I don't know if it's the pig, and it was one of the think tanks did it. One of the conservative think tanks did it every year. They came out with the pig book,
right? And
you looked at it, and it was all the pork that existed. By taking roughly a year and a half to do this and listing it all down, the next thing is, okay, you put the list down. Are you going to say how you get rid of it? Because Congress will have to get rid of it, and how do you do it? Because all these things exist. Because members of Congress want those things done because they bring cash back to their localities. How does it stop it is the question.
Right.
And the criticism that you will get is if you list all these things and nothing is done, they promise to cut $2 trillion out and they cut nothing.
Well, and also for all of us who have been screaming about the national debt and spending and the deficit for a long time, and really there was no concern or focus on it during the election season. What are you applying here? What's the goal? Because my first suspicion is you're trying to buy some street cred with me. We're going to get to the root of government spending and everything else. Look, if it is just an awareness campaign that changes the political winds and brings that back in terms of a true discussion about cuts and wasteful spending, then I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, I think what they have to do, because we've talked about two things that they have to do. They actually have to do the substance of a ton of stuff to get rid of the filthy rot inside of the weaponization of government. They've got to get rid of that. On something like this, what they've got to do from the very beginning is not brag that we're going to cut $2 trillion.
Right.
And he hasn't said we're going to cut $2 trillion. He says, I believe we can. You could cut $2 trillion. He can't cut anything. Right. He's Elon Musk. What they need to do is constantly say, we're going to do this list. We're going to let the people see it. It's education so people know, but we can't do anything without Congress passing laws. Republicans seem to be very optimistic and very receptive to this. Yeah. Democrats don't want to cut nothing.
Right.
So if you're going to do this process, you just can't put out the list, say, here's for the favorites of the people to get cut, and then it just sits there. You have to remind people every single day that Trump cannot make the cuts. You can't make the cuts. You're identifying it. Trump is showing you what the problem is. We have Republicans aboard. Democrats need to be aboard, and that's what you do from July 6th all the way through the next year and a half of your two and a half years. Yeah. The next 2.5 years, you promote the fact that this is what you wish to cut, but you can't get Democrats to cooperate at all. Otherwise, if you don't do that, it can be used against you. That was the point I was trying to make earlier.
Sure.
So
yeah, and that's it. It has to be going somewhere. Because it implies, look, this is an effort to control spending. Okay, to what end and how? You got a goal for summer of 2026. 2026. In my opinion, that's too long.
No, I know. Yeah, I know.
It's supposed to take 30 minutes. I saw the movie, Dave. And they go in one half-hour meeting and solve all the debt crisis for the country with a yellow notepad.
While taking care of everyone who needs everything.
Exactly,
Right.
yes. Yeah, exactly.
You forgot that.
Yeah, no, it's an important point. And that's, I saw the documentary, Dave. That's again where a lot of us who are greatly concerned about this is, all right, is this a serious move? And show us. There should be an awareness, and I think Elon Musk is one of those who is, in terms of positioned correctly to bring that awareness about on social media. Ramaswamy, the same thing. And I think the approach is great, but we always hear, we've heard this before with, we're going to assign a commission, and it gets to be a snooze fest by the time it's done. I expect this will be more, but again, tell me the game plan. What is, okay, You've already found wasteful spending. You already found it. Let's assume it's 1/10 of what Elon says. We think you can certainly cut $200 billion. Let's say that's it, right? They reach that. Okay, we believe these things can be cut. All right, then what? Where do you go from there? Because Congress has to have the will to get that done.
And the important thing is you need to cut without adding things that add up to more than what you've got.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
the other problem.
Well, and you look at the OMB and they're certainly going to get full cooperation there. It's Trump. It'll be Trump's White House, so that will be interesting to watch and see how that plays out. And I do believe, by the way, an awareness campaign isn't nothing. It is something.
No, it is.
As long as you take that, and because it's going to take clearly a lot more of us to be concerned about the national debt and the deficit and government spending for it to be a real political point and focus in the next election cycle, whether that's the midterm at 26 or the presidential election in 28.
I think to have Musk and Ramaswamy on it, because they can be out promoting this.
Yeah, no, they're perfect for that.
They can do, they'll be out there in front of the media. Here's what we found this week, and here's what the public has said. And then on social media, engage the public. What do you think about, you make it an issue. Before the pork book came out, talk show hosts would talk about it for a day, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, you bring this up every day, and every day you're bringing up the absurdity of it.
Yep.
And people like Elon Musk and Ramaswamy can sell it.
Right.
And that's what it is. I mean, that's basically what it is. You're not cutting these things in the next year and a half. And most likely you're not cutting any of this at all, but because the Democrats just wouldn't go for it.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're publicizing to the public so the public is fully aware of the situation, and you explain to them, Trump can't cut this. That's not how the government works. You got to explain to people, Eric, as you know, how the damn government works.
Exactly.
There are people going, Trump said he's going to cut and balance the budget. Trump can do it. Trump can't do it. But people don't know that. Still, it depends on what survey it is. Half the people don't even know the three branches of government.
Well,
so they just assume, Trump's president. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He's going to form the concentration camps.
Yeah.
And,
Well, but you and I issued great concern about the split ticket thing.
Yeah.
You vote for Trump because you don't like what the Democrats are doing, but then you vote for a Democrat.
AOC, that was a big story.
On the down ballot.
Yeah.
And we looked at that like, in Arizona, in other states. Man, a number of other states.
AOC did a whole thing on it. Who were the people that voted for Trump and voted for me?
Exactly. That, to me, you can't explain because it's an indication you don't fully understand the three branches of government and how all this works. My question would be, what did you want from it? Are you just sending a message, or do you want things to actually change? And to change, there has to be a consensus. And we know that there's zero chance of AOC caucusing with the Republicans. She's an independent now. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Well, I'll say this. Right now, I do not believe the American public is actually in the mood to cut anything if it affects them. If you cut
the other
right.
Exactly.
If you cut not just $2 trillion a year,
a different NIMBY effect.
Yeah, if you
don't cut in my backyard.
If you cut not just $2 trillion a year, $200 billion a year, $20 billion a year,
yep.
people are going to be upset because they're going to be able to find the victims.
Yep.
This is the only way you can do it is to show people over a consistent marketing period, day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. This is the insanity of the government. That's the only chance you have of trying to get anything done, and that's what they're doing.
Right.
And so I don't believe it's an exercise in futility. It might be, but it's not their fault for doing it. It will be the public, and the public does not want to cut.
Right.
They say they do. They want to cut everything except if it affects them. You cut $2 trillion a year off the budget, people are getting affected.
Yep. By the way, with dairy cows, Iron Fortified Maiden is their favorite band. I knew it was weak when I said it. I'm still sticking with it.
86690. You need some of the alcohol that the fish have.
Yeah, that's true.
86690 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
One trend in the years following the COVID-19 pandemic, the continued growth of rural populations since that 2020 global outbreak.
We found that the rural population continues to grow with a moderate increase over the last year. It's largely due to more people moving into rural areas than moving out, which is a trend that we saw definitely with the coronavirus pandemic.
Tracy Farragut of USDA's Economic Research Service with information from the latest edition of the Rural America at a Glance report released Tuesday. Even with the net increase by age, significant decreases in working age populations and significant increases in older populations in rural America occurred over the past decade. Despite the trend of a lower working age population, rural employment numbers from 2022 to 2023 grew to nearly pre-pandemic numbers of 2019. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Just so you know, and it's being reported, but expect the people you're going to hear, well, they're trying to cut back on government bureaucracy, and they're forming another bureaucracy. There it is. Despite the name, Trump clarified in a statement that Musk-Ramaswamy effort would provide advice and guidance from outside the government in tandem with the White House and its Office of Management and Budget, which means they'll probably give them the information.
Yeah.
That's where you get that
right.
information.
And that's good. And I think it makes sense. You look at it as and while they're not typical citizens, they are citizens, and it's like, okay, a citizen's approach to oversight here, while we do have oversight through our elected representatives, good luck with them getting it in. Do we?
I did not know that.
Actually, let's turn that into a question. That would be more accurate. Do we? Do we really? But also, again, to carry that to the people and say, hey, look at everything. And if it does start a campaign and a trend to get more people interested in the bloated spending and the national debt and deficits, then good. That's a good thing. And if we don't have to spend money on it, even better.
listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. All right. Our audio cut of the day comes from a interview done before Trump picked him to be his Secretary of Defense. And this is Peter Hegseth from Fox News, also a 20-year military career. He's been asked before about what he would change in the military and what he sees as the problems.
Comes to the DOD, don't worry about what their nickname was when they were in the military. You know, what was it? Mad Dog, Mad Ass. So as much as I love Donald Trump, that was very much a pitfall of the beginning of his administration. Who are the people that truly believe in America first, that truly believe in unleashing our warfighters, that reject every aspect of DEI, not just not the whole like, well, you know, we do diversity, but we're not really. No. We're out of this whole game. We only want lethality and meritocracy. That's it. And then what's key is not that person. You'll have a figurehead there at DOD that does that. It's the series of dozens of underlings who have to be just as committed and understanding everything that's being peddled and pushed to help recommend everybody that you fire. I mean, mass firings at the general officer. Were you involved in pushing that? Okay, you're fired. Were you involved? And fine, pick 5 or 6 symbolic firings of generals. Well, guess what happens at some level there? The whole incentive structure changes for these, you know, they're politicians wearing camouflage at many levels at that level. They're going to start to return back, I would think, for many of them, to what they really were supposed to be doing in the first place. Oh, the incentive is having more ammo and more training, not more diversity trainings. How about we do that? I do think it's the type of institution that can turn differently than, say, a Department of Education, which we should just get rid of completely. Or if you weren't going to get rid of, you couldn't pull the roots out fast enough or hard enough. Because I think the core of that Pentagon would be with all of those moves.
And I believe that's true. And I think there's going to be major pushback. Expect education that the Democrats are going to bring up, because the Democrats will do everything to stop the elimination of the Department of Education.
Yep.
And they will attack the Republicans as to wanting to, just destroy every child by not giving them a quality education.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans are looking at saying, well, before the Department of Education came along, education was fine in this country,
yep,
and states did it on their own, and
yep,
states can do it now. But the problem is when you see the wokeness, it is so embedded in the Department of Education, which is closely aligned with all the teachers' unions. They have the same mindset across the board. They're not helping children.
Right.
And so you look and say, all right, is that something that should go back to the state? Should the education of our children be closer to the local representatives that are closer to us? Should it be more like your state legislature is in charge of it because they're closer to you? The office is around the corner. You can actually go visit a state legislator like you can go to a school board meeting. You know where to find these people. Congress gets in charge of it. They keep expanding. Now, I have advocated that the Department of Education is not necessary for 35 and a half years now,
mm-hmm,
since I've been in talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want a less quality education. I want dollars spent in a better way, and I want dollars spent on what will get kids highly educated for the jobs that they're going to need to get for the future. That is not the goal of the people that run the Department of Education or those closely aligned with the people in the Department of Education, like the teachers' unions. It's about indoctrination and brainwashing of kids.
It definitely is, and we've spent so much money on it over the years, and what improvements have we seen? None. And you have, I think, also a very different mindset with the American people post-COVID. There was a lot of learning that happened outside of the classrooms when the virtual classrooms came into the homes of millions of Americans. And parents were experiencing that for the first time in some cases. And they were looking over the shoulders of their kids, and they were asking questions. And the teachers union, of course, they were all over the place. But the fact of the matter is, more and more Americans want control over their child's education. And you can't make an argument against a stronger local approach and authority versus a federal authority.
It's going to be a tough sell, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough sell to people to say the federal government needs to get out of education because they're going to, well, that's where the money is. We can get more money from them. We can't get more money from the state. And the unions, we know, are going to be against it. And you expect demonization.
Oh.
The demonization is going now. And so you've got to sell it by saying, do you wish the education of your children to be closer to home?
Right.
Do you wish to have
greater
more
accountability?
Greater accountability. I do see the fact of that the possibility of Republicans selling this by saying federal grants would be available to states. Instead of the education department, you take away the bureaucracy and you have money that goes directly to the state from the federal government. Now, the only thing is, once you do that, eventually Democrats will tie conditions onto that money that goes to the states. That's the problem that you have when the federal government gets involved in anything.
Right, yeah.
But I'm just saying that it's a tough road to go down. Like anything is, if you wish to get rid of any of the federal bureaucracy, people say they want to cut until you start cutting.
Right.
Then they don't wish to cut.
Right.
I do not believe, and I will say this, if I'm wrong, I'll be so happy to say, Eric, I'm wrong.
Yes.
People actually want a smaller federal government. I was wrong. I'll be celebrating through the street going, I was wrong. I was wrong.
Or you
I
can
was
blame
wrong.
me. Eric, you were wrong.
Or I just blame you. That's even better. But I do not believe that the people, I believe the majority of the people, I don't mean our listeners, I don't mean true conservatives, but I think the majority of the people still say, oh, we've got to cut, we've got to get this under control. But when it comes down to it, they don't want it.
No.
They don't want the cuts. And if the Republicans can win this, Republicans have to do this. You have no choice.
Right.
When you see the interest on the debt now, what did I see the first month, the deficit for October? $248 billion.
Yeah. 1
month.
Yeah.
1 month.
That's insane.
Absolutely insane for 1 month. $248 billion. I think it was, my memory's correct. It was 240 something. I thought it was 248. I'm doing it from memory. You can't continue on this path. So it's like, you guys don't care. You don't care about future generations. Look at the debt you're putting on them.
Yeah.
You want taxation without representation on people that aren't born yet.
Yeah. Unreal. But this is, again, it's a battle that will go beyond 4 years. This is going to be this is going to be one of those things that but the Republican Party is going to have to get back to fighting the fight.
Well, that's why you need to do what they're doing, which is you're marketing what you're marketing how bad the situation is, and that's what you have to do. You have to educate.
Yeah.
You have to educate, and so that's one thing that you need surrogates that can communicate. Getting back to, playing the audio cut that was mostly on the Department of Defense from Peter Hegseth, lethality and meritocracy.
Yeah.
Having a lethal fighting force and meritocracy, that's all that matters. That's what it's about. And being able to recruit. And you have to recruit. The majority of people you have to recruit are men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw him saying, oh, you've got to produce Top Gun commercials. There's a problem recruiting right now in the military.
Oh, there's a huge problem.
Part of the problem is all the crap that's going on, all the wokeness.
Yep.
And you cannot unite a fighting force with DEI. It's impossible. You can't sit there and say, our goal is to unite all of you by telling you that all these people over here with skin color, this particular skin color, are racist. Now let's unite.
Right.
They hate you because of your skin color, but they can't help it. It's part of their culture.
Right.
So don't blame them. Just say that they have privilege and make them do our liberal original sin repentance.
Yeah. And DEI training.
I'm sorry, when I knew I was going to say original sin, I started laughing at that one.
Well, it's, it's, and that's what, if we let them keep going, it would be, well, boot camp now is less about your physical training, more about your DEI training.
I got this in here. Freezing all spending at current levels for the next 5 years would do a lot. You had Paul Ryan, who attempted. Remember, he wanted to balance the budget.
Yep, over 30 years.
30 years.
30 years.
And he was viewed as wanting to kill people, starve children, push old people. Remember the wheelchair ad where he pushed the person over the cliff?
Right.
Freeze. Well, there's a number of ways to do it. You freeze all spending at current levels. What was the representative out of Florida? Remember the penny plan?
Yeah, right.
It was just cut 1% a year. You can't get that.
Can't do that.
Freezing all spending at current levels. Does that take into account inflation?
Right.
Because you take it into account of inflation, you've just got to
because you got to work in the government, man.
Right. You've got a 2.5% cut every year. Then
right. Yeah.
So that's the whole point. Of course, if you freeze spending and you have massive economic growth, you catch up. Odds are that's going to take an awful long time, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you still have the interest on the debt, which, how do you get those interest rates down? Print more money? Start inflation again?
Right.
We've got ourselves close to that doom cycle.
Well, it is that cycle that feels more like a death spiral the more it goes on.
Yeah. And so those are the challenges that it's not, look, we said this. It's not going to be all joy when you get to actually, how do you make the sausage?
Right.
It's going to be brutal.
Yep.
And expect the Democrats to come full bore. The demonization of attempting to cut. And they'll say, look, they don't care about you because they're trying to cut.
Right.
And Republicans
They're going to take that away. They're going to take it away. They're going to take it away from you. They're going to take it away. Well, Democrats have been actually in practice taking it away, including your spending power.
And understand that any Republican that's saying it's easy because all we have to do is cut out the inefficiencies to cut $2 trillion a year.
Yeah.
And make it so it's all going to be fine and dandy and everybody will be for it.
Sure. Until.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm going to give everybody a chance, but we'll see. Are you thinking that I'm very highly suspicious that that's what will happen?
Maybe.
You may be right on that.
We've seen it before. Does government spend too much money? Yes. You think they can cut? They should. Okay, we're going to start right here on your porch. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. We should do away with the Department of Education, return the power back to the states. What will that mean? Well, the Democrats are going to be at the door going, it will mean that your child is basically, not, it's their future is gone. Everything's gone.
Understand, I saw this back in 94, 95, was it?
Yep.
When the Republicans said they wanted to reduce the rate of growth of the school lunch program. Not cut, not just go even, just reduce the rate of the growth of it.
Slow the roll.
Where every single lunch and even the richest schools and the richest kids get a subsidized lunch.
Mm-hmm.
That was an absolute disaster for Republicans, and it was nothing of the budget.
Right.
Nothing. They just wanted to reduce the rate of growth, and the starving young kids, what Republicans wanted to do, Republicans couldn't win that.
Right. And the left still promotes the whole free lunch program, and schools are open during the summer too to feed kids who don't have food at home and blah 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 blah. No, it's never ending for the left.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's what I bring to you. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well,
yeah,
another day.
I love the fact that the Trump team is they don't quit. They boom, They're right into it, hitting the ground running. But we're used to do-nothing Republicans after elections, getting a break for a few days. I actually love it. I'm encouraged by what I think they really know, what the Trump team knows, and that is, this is a mandate that's on them. It's on your shoulders. You got to get to work. Now, 4 years isn't going to be long enough, so you better start getting ready long before then, and they seem to be getting very prepared.
I do sense the pressure is there with the fact that there's not going to be really a fight in the House for Johnson, and I think whatever happens in the next day in the Senate.
Yep. Yeah.
I still think they understand they have to be unified and move forward with the agenda.
Yep. I agree.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.